This is genuinely insane, as a brand new article from The Athletic has come out and listed some of the top targets for trades from the Minnesota Wild here in this offseason. And some of the names that have been put on this list as likely to be traded is absolutely wild. We're going to be breaking it down here in this video, going over a few on this list and some that are genuinely crazy to see after some recent stuff that has gone down. We're going to be breaking it all down here on this video, going over these players and talking about why some of this may not be the exact route the Minnesota Wild need to take here in this offseason. Very quickly, before we do jump into it, though, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We got a lot of Minnesota Wild stuff coming here as we get towards the draft and free agency. The Wild are going to be very active. We know that. We're going to have it here for you guys, and you will not want to miss it. So be sure to hit that button. But let's get straight into our first one here. And I want to save one for last, and we're going to get into that player in a bit. But I want to pull up one here. First of all, Liam Ohgren, another first-round pick who could be used as a trade chip this summer. Ohgren, the sharpshooting Swede, had 19 goals in 41 games in Iowa last year. Scored 2 more in 24 games with the Wild. He could either be a middle six winger for the Wild or be moved as part of a bigger summer deal. Now, I think the big part for this Liam Ohgren opportunity here is now that they're listing him as a part of a bigger deal, and instead of being someone to be traded by himself. And Liam Ohgren is someone that I've been, pretty adamant on not being given the chance yet, as many other players have with Minnesota. He's a lot younger, 21 years old. We know this team is still, not that old, but we have a lot of older players that were in this forward core. But next year and going forward, I think we're going to have a great opportunity to really see him as an NHL player. And I feel like it's a bit too early to kind of go out and justify a trade for Liam Ohgren, unless, as they said in that Athletic article, it is part of a much bigger deal. It's part of one that really could tilt the scales for the Minnesota Wild here in this instance. And we saw last year in Iowa, 37 points in 41 games, what he can really do when he gets to that level in the NHL. And I'm expecting that to be here, at least starting next year. So Liam Ohgren, I will say, is one that I'm not really comfortable trading by himself, but if needed, and that's if needed, being part of a bigger deal, I'm okay with it. It's something that I feel like has to be done if it needs to be done. We see a lot of players and teams try and do that if they need to really top off a deal, they'll give up a prospect that, they want, but overly may not be that big of a deal. So let me know what you think about Liam Ohgren, because there's some crazier things here in this one. It is not going to be the next guy, but still a very interesting decision after everything that the Minnesota Wild have been going through. This time, we're looking at Freddy Gaudreau. Now, Freddy Gaudreau was listed as a category of possible to be traded, but, not something they're going to be going after. And I do recommend checking this Athletic article out. It will be in the comments, in the description, as always, excuse me. And you're going to want to look at it, because the way they have these categorized, these players, is genuinely crazy. And, let's keep in mind, Marco Rossi is on this list. I'm not going over in this video, and he hits in the category, along with, 5 other players, to be most likely to be traded. But Freddy Gaudreau, the versatile center, has 3 years left on his deal at $2.1 million cap hit, and he modified no trade clause, but has limited production in the playoffs, and some young centers coming up for the position, i.e. Daniil Yurov, Hunter Height, Charlie Stramel, Riley Height, could make him expendable. Now, this one I'm not really on board with. Yes, you do have some new young centers coming in. Daniil Yurov will be in the lineup next year. That has been confirmed. I would assume, unless anything crazy happens, a potential second-line center there. Getting rid of Rossi would really put him in there. Keep Freddy Gaudreau as a third-line center, whatever you want to do with him. And Charlie Stramel at some point. Riley Height and Hunter Height, I would probably say, are someone that are going to come up sooner rather than later, but not as soon as some other names. Charlie Stramel, Daniil Yurov, I think are the top 2 to come up yet at this point for the center. But Freddy Gaudreau is a very important player on this team after what we've been able to see him do for his entire tenure with the Minnesota Wild. And yes, it says that hasn't been great in the playoffs. His production was limited. Whose was? There was some great players in the playoffs. Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Boldy, of course, anybody who was really we normally see, but everybody else was really put on the back burner. We saw Marco Rossi, of course. That's the reason he wants to be traded. Barely played in the playoffs. I don't think you can blame playoff production success or lack of success on a guy like Freddy Gaudreau and then kind of justifying trading him. I think that's just genuinely crazy. But as a 32-year-old center who, over the past few seasons, has shown some just very consistent production. Last year was a bit iffy or whatnot, but 37 points in 82 games this year as a third-line center. That's not a really bad idea. And at 2.1, and someone as good as he is on the faceoffs, why not keep him? It's unless you're getting something in return that could be an immediate replacement for Freddy Gaudreau. He's bringing that veteran leadership to you on your offense. And, you re-signed Marcus Johansson. Of course, that's a great one. Joel Eriksson Ek is here for still a couple more years at 5.25. That's a steal of a contract. you have a guy like, Yakov Trenin, who, although was likely to be traded at some point to get rid of that contract, can play center. Same goes for Ryan Hartman, whether he's traded or not. Freddy Gaudreau is another center on this team that, at a comfortable price, is a very, very solid center to have here. And, of course, over the next few seasons, that contract's going to be looking even better than it is right now. It's still, a good contract right now, but come 2 or 3 years' time, when we do see this deal at that level of, a possible $1.5 million deal, it makes a lot of sense to keep him. So I want to know what you guys think about those two this far. But here's the crazy one. And, hold on for this. Listen up. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But they have David Jiricek here. This is genuinely insane. After going over the trade that they gave up to get him, to put it in that terms, it really just makes zero sense. But David Jiricek, after giving up a first, second, third, and a fourth round pick, plus Damon Hunt to the Columbus Blue Jackets for the defenseman, would seem hard to the Wild to believe the Wild would even obtain flipping him. But if Jiricek was the final piece of a big package deal, you'd have to consider it. Now, I don't know what package deal this would be, but it would have to be one hell of a deal to include David Jiricek as a topping piece after what you gave up for him. And, looking at this trade, of course, David Jiricek, a fifth-round pick for Damon Hunt, a first, a second, a third, and a fourth. Now, of course, they're not all Minnesota Wild picks, but the third, the fourth, coming from Colorado, Toronto, your first, your second, they're giving up a lot to get David Jiricek. And if you're considering flipping him for a top of a piece in a trade, you have to be getting a top 10 player in the NHL if that's going to be a top piece for a trade. So I think this is genuinely insane. I think there's no way you can confidently say that you're trading David Jiricek here. He may not have had the production this far, but he's not really been given a good chance, I would say. You've got to give the guy some ice time if you want him in there. And of course, the Minnesota Wild defense is still very, very solid. He's very young. There's a lot of defensemen that have to come up, and I think we're going to make that transition here in the next few seasons. And there is some more in this article, too, that I don't have here, but Jonas Brodin and Jared Spurgeon are both in the possibility of being traded as well. Now, I don't want to say anything is, close. I don't want to say anything very confident in saying anything just yet, but it would make sense to trade one of the two for the cap space and to open up a spot on the younger side of the defense to get rid of one of them. Now, I don't really want to see it just yet. I think we need to really kind of take a think about it, take it on the back seat and, sleep on it, but it could happen, and I don't want to say anything, like as I mentioned, I don't want to say anything is close, but with how young a lot of this defense is and how good they are and supposed to be, you have to get them in sooner rather than later. You don't want these guys wasting away in the NHL, or you're going to have a result like the Boston Bruins, who simply just cannot develop prospects, and I think that's something that no team wants to be a part of. So let me know what you think about this list here so far, and remember, as I mentioned, all of this is going to be in the description down below. Check out the article for yourself because there's a boatload of names in there. I picked out a few that I found the most interesting here that would, likely not actually happen, but are just something that they're putting into paper and putting it, or not paper, I guess, putting it on the website. It seems just a bit crazy to really consider this now at this point in the offseason. So let me know what you think about it. Be sure to go check it out. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. Remember, we have a lot of Minnesota Wild news coming. You won't want to miss it. But like I said, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.